Hey there, how you doing today? Welcome to the Bernie Show here on STL Sports Central. I am Bernie Miklas. I am the talker here, and I appreciate your feedback, though. So leave some comments, please subscribe, hit the like button, all that good stuff. I've been writing and talking about St. Louis sports, including college stuff, since 1985. I do 5 videos and write 5 columns each week here on STL Sports Central, which means 10 pieces of work at least during the week. Not the weekends, but during the week. You can catch me on KMOX as part of the Gas House Gang and the Redbird Rush Hour. And I am on the Cardinal Territory video podcast with Katie Wu. And I do a weekly Seeing Red podcast on the Cardinals with Will Leach. Today's topic, I'm wondering what could have been for the 2025 Cardinals. I will explain. But first of all, let me say this. I am not insane. Well, at least not on most days. And I say this because I want you to know that I do not think the 2025 Cardinals have a chance of snatching a wild card playoff spot. I think that ticket's going to be claimed by another team. According to FanGraphs, the Cardinals' chances of doing so, getting to the playoffs, 0.7%, getting that wild card after losing the first 2 games of the Seattle series. You know, there was a little talk around town. You know, the Cardinals they won 3 straight series and 7 out of 10 games before they headed to Seattle. So there was a little talk bubbling up like, well, they still have a chance. And, you know, mathematically they did. But I think losing this Seattle series was a kind of brought back the reality, right? After scoring 5 runs and striking out 23 times in their 2 losses to the Mariners. By the way, I'm wearing a Seattle Pilots hat, 1969 Seattle Pilots hat, as kind of a tribute to that team since the Cardinals are playing in Seattle. After scoring 5 runs and striking out 23 games in their 2 losses at Seattle, the Cardinals and the Diamondbacks are tied at 72 and 74 and are 4.5 games out of the 3rd wild card pass. The Cardinals wrap up their series at Seattle today. Then they travel to Milwaukee for 3 games. Then they'll come home to play the Reds and the Brewers. Then that's the final homestand, that Reds and Brewers. Then comes the last week of the regular season. Cardinals will be on the road to play the Giants and the Cubs. So now that I've given you the itinerary, which I probably didn't have to do there, but hey, I try to be thorough. But here's the reason why. Let's get back to the topic. Here's why I wonder what could have been for the Cardinals in 2025. And I'm not talking about a bunch of free agent signings and all that. I'm talking about just doing a little more than they did. It's because multiple teams, the Mets and the Giants and the Reds, left that gate wide open for the Cardinals to sneak through and somehow make the playoffs. At least the opportunity would have been better for them to do that instead of being such a long shot. It's almost comical the way those teams let the Cardinals hang around and hang around and hang around, even though the Cardinals hadn't played well enough to even think about being in contention during their Project Runway season. I'm calling it that now, Project Runway season. It was an audition for young or inexperienced players and pitchers, but only to a point. The Cardinals had a great month of May, but after that, they fizzled. Since June the 1st, the Cardinals are 39 and 49 for a .443 win percentage that ranks 12th in the National League. Not only that, since the beginning of June, the Cardinals have a minus 81 run differential. They're tied for 13th in the National League in runs scored. They have a 5.52 starting pitcher ERA that ranks 13th among the 15 National League teams. But even with all that bad stuff, right, these ne'er-do-wells in the National League still kind of said, come on, Cardinals, we're giving you a chance here. Come on. You can do it. We're flopping around. You can do it. So the Cardinals had a unique opportunity, even being a below 500 team, even being a team with major holes in terms of their offense and their athleticism and their power and their starting pitching and their depth. It was still there for them had they gone into the season with a slightly better roster. They would have beaten the odds. They certainly would have had a chance to beat the odds. All right, let's reset this too, because I think it's important for me to tell you what I'm talking about as far as the other teams. The Mets currently hold the third wild card coupon, and they're really trying hard to give it away to somebody. The team with a $342 million payroll, $342 million. It's actually higher than that because they made some trades and added some players, more than that in a minute. But anyway, the team with the $342 million payroll is 14 games under 500 since June the 13th. And after walking straight there for a little while, it looked like the Mets were getting their act together, but they're not, or they didn't. Maybe just for about 2 weeks. Because as I record this on Wednesday at 11:30 a.m., the Mets have lost 4 in a row and 7 out of their last 10 games. And don't forget, the Mets were one of the most aggressive teams at the trade deadline, acquiring relievers Ryan Helsley, Tyler Rogers, and Gregory Soto, plus outfielder Cedric Mullins. And even though they added 4 coveted trade deadline targets, and they added more payroll to the huge payroll they already had, the Mets are 14-22 since making the deals. Despite the Cardinals trading Helsley, Phil Maton, and Steven Matz, 3 relievers at the deadline, the Cardinals actually have a better record than the Mets since the deadline passed. What a joke, right? This is what I mean about the Cardinals. Could have had a chance with a slightly better squad. Okay, let's look at the Cincinnati Reds. That's a team that I thought had a really good chance of making the playoffs this year because they brought in the future Hall of Fame manager Terry Francona. They put together a really good starting rotation. They added more talent, no major moves, but they added more talent at the trade deadline. But from August the 20th, with everything seemingly working in their favor, right? From August the 20th through September the 5th, Cincinnati lost 11 out of 14 games, including a series loss at home to the Cardinals. The Reds have tried to recover by winning 3 of their last 4 games through Tuesday, and we'll talk about their place in the standings in a minute. Another team, the Giants, who have a $220 million payroll, and that was before they made the blockbuster trade for the elite Red Sox bat Rafael Devers, who makes a ton of money. They picked up about $290 million in his remaining contract. And for a long time, despite getting Devers, and their offense was bad, so they really needed a guy like Devers, but nothing happened. For a long time, the Giants actually got worse instead of better. For example, San Francisco dropped to a season low 7 games below 500 back on August the 22nd. They were chasing the Cardinals for a while. And when they got to 7 games below 500, the Giants, well, that was part of a stretch where the Giants only won 15 of 41 games. Again, the Giants, just like the Mets, just like the Reds, were saying to the Cardinals, come on, join the fun. We'll save some beer for you. We got plenty of snacks. Come join us. And the Cardinals weren't up to it. They didn't have enough talent. And it wouldn't have taken much more talent to close that gap, in my opinion. I'm not predicting it absolutely would have happened. They certainly would have had a better chance with a slightly, modestly upgraded roster. But the Giants and the Reds, I'll at least give them this much. They took advantage of the underachieving and hysterically overfunded Mets for a chance indeed to get back in the wild card race. Through Tuesday, that's last night, San Francisco had won 13 of its last 16 games, although ironically, 2 of the losses were when they lost the series in St. Louis last weekend. But anyway, the Giants, all of a sudden, they're 2 games out. 2 games behind the Mets for the third wild card. And that proves my point in a way. And this is a Giants team that not that long ago was looking up at the Cardinals in the standings. Right? But here they are, 3 games out. The addition of then you have the Reds. I'm sorry, and I didn't mean to gloss over them. And then you got the Reds, who, despite falling, just going up and down, falling all over the place, getting up, whatever. They're only 3 games out. So the addition, I think we can conclude the addition of a third wild card in each league has allowed a bunch of mediocre teams to stay in the hunt much longer than they really deserve to. And it gives a chance for the owners to make more money because the theory being, well, if you let more teams into the playoffs, that means there's more chances to get into the playoffs. And that means you can sell you can sell tickets late in the season you wouldn't be able to sell if the team didn't have a chance to make the playoffs. And then you might even get lucky and host some home playoff games. See, all of this is why I wonder what might have been for the Cardinals if ownership management had made at least a half-hearted effort to win in 2025. I'll get to that in a moment here on my second segment. But first, some awesome news from DraftKings Sportsbook. Missouri, get ready. The wait is almost over. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook, is coming soon to the Show Me State. You can sign up today. New Missouri customers can get $300 in bonus bets when we launch on December the 1st. And you can sign up because if you download now and you place a $5, you can then place a $5 bet when DraftKings Sportsbook goes live on December the 1st. DraftKings Sportsbook brings everything you need to elevate your game day experience, including live in-game betting, lightning fast payouts, endless ways to get in on the action, and you can do it all right from your phone. And boy, that site is so great, man. That app is so great. You get so much information to help you make decisions. And when we officially go live, DraftKings in Missouri, you're going to be betting with the Sportsbook app that I just raved about, which is fantastic. It is trusted by millions. It is safe and secure, and it gives you fast money withdrawals. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code STL Sports to grab $300 in bonus bets with just a $5 bet when we go live on December the 1st. That's code STL Sports in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. You must be 21 years old, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offers. Terms available at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. Thank you, DraftKings, for presenting The Bernie Show. Welcome back, and please subscribe to STL Sports Central, our YouTube channel, for the abundant content, large variety of content we're providing for all the local and pro college teams that you care about. And while you're at it, click that thumbs up button. That's the like button, and we all appreciate that very much. All right, let's get back to the topic. As we now know, the Cardinals weren't that far off from being a winning team and a surprise contender, a legit contender for even this late in the season for the postseason. But they slashed payroll by nearly $40 million. They signed only one established major league free agent, giving a one-year, $2 million contract, which is like pennies these days, right? Considering baseball salaries. They gave that $2 million to reliever Phil Maton, and that obviously was money well spent. And that's all they did, really. Yeah, signed a couple minor league free agents here and there, and they've had their eye out picking up relievers here and there. Okay. But that's more about the future than the present. St. Louis decided to put 2025 aside for the Project Runway season. But let's take a look, shall we, at what could have been with just a little more effort. In other words, you're wondering, okay, what are the things, Bernie, that you would say represents a little more effort or modest effort or minor upgrades or, low cost but effective upgrades? I'll try to define it, okay? Again, nothing's perfect here, but I'm presenting my theory. The Cardinals could have reinforced their depth, including the rotation, by plugging in some low-budget free agents. One more decent starting pitcher could have made a difference. Because look at how bad the rotation after the first couple of months were pretty good. But look at how that rotation collapsed. So don't tell me they couldn't have used another starting pitcher. In fact, I said so at the time. And again, I don't have any visions of lunacy in my head. They weren't going to go out and sign, Corbin Burns. I know that. I'm talking about modest but helpful upgrades. The Cardinals also could have added a right-handed bat, something I kept squawking about, to put in the outfield, because that would have given the Cardinals more balance and more offense from a group of outfielders that this season have collectively hit .227 with a woeful .343 slugging percentage. And the need for a right-handed hitting outfielder to basically put in a platoon arrangement, well, that's as obvious as could be. It has really hurt them this season as the offense began to fall apart. This season, the Cardinals, check out this stat. This season, the Cardinals have gotten 402 plate appearances from left-handed hitting outfielders against left-handed pitchers. In other words, those lefty versus lefty matchups are not good for the hitters. And predictably, those lefty versus lefty matchups were horrendous for the Redbirds outfielders in terms of offense, because their left-handed outfield bats this season have hit .206 with a .287 slugging percentage against lefty pitchers. So let's call them southpaws. I like that. And it doesn't sound like much, but think about how awful the offense production was, because the Cardinals didn't have a right-handed bat. They didn't have more options. They didn't have something to try to give them, a little more of a fighting chance against left-handed pitchers, right? Reasonably rice, excuse me. And I went back and looked at what these guys signed for. I won't read them. The amount of money, but just take my word on it, because I did the quick research before I started recording this. Reasonably priced right-handed hitting outfielders available on the free agent market at a low or reasonable cost included Ramon Laureano, Manuel Margot, Austin Hayes, Tommy Pham, and Harrison Bader. They were there. It wouldn't have broken anyone's bank, including Bill DeWitt's. No. The Cardinals would have had a stronger rotation in addition to, if they've just added someone for that extra depth. But also, this is common sense stuff. They would have had a stronger rotation if they had dumped Eric Fedde to make room for rookie Michael McGreevy. Fedde, who I said, and many of you said, should have been traded last offseason when he still had value. Fedde was a liability in 2025. They lost 15 of his 20 starts. No one's saying, McGreevy is, Danny Cox or something, right? Circa 1985. But the Cardinals are 11-4 when McGreevy has started a game for them over the last 2 seasons. So just do the math there. You install McGreevy and say, get out of here, Fedde. What do you win? You win 5 more games, maybe? And I say that I'm being conservative. You win 5 more games, 6 more games, 7 more games. I mean, you're right there, correct? Though he's pitched and listen, Miles Michaelis, the whole Miles Michaelis experience in St. Louis is really interesting to me, because every time he puts a couple of good starts together, you have all these people rushing to, his defense. I mean, the TV guys go bananas. And he still remains, even though his ERA has gotten below 5 for the season, he's still statistically one of the worst starting pitchers in the majors over the last 3 seasons. So he was in the way, and you had Fedde in the way because the Cardinals kept both of those guys around for payroll politics. All right, you had multiple low-cost options out there that you could assign to cheaper deals for starting pitching reinforcement, including Adrian Hauser, the longtime Brewer, who signed with the White Sox for less than $1 million before the season. And he was later traded to Tampa Bay, and he's got about a 3.65 ERA, Hauser does, in 18 starts. The Brewers, who already had a lot more pitching than the Cardinals, they signed Jose Quintana to a 1-year deal for less than $5 million. The Cubs signed the underrated Colin Ray for 1 year and $5 million. And there were a few others like that. And keep in mind something that you already know, but just to remind you. By signing cheaper free agents that would have made your team better for this year, but it also would have given you some options, because if the year wasn't going well, the Cardinals could have flipped them for prospects at the trade deadline. And I say that because the one free agent they signed, Phil Maton, they flipped to the Rangers for 3 pitching prospects at the deadline. And a couple of those dudes throw hard, and you never know how they may turn out. Here are some other considerations I was thinking about when I was having my coffee this morning. I realized the roster math was problematic, but in theory, when the offense started to just slow to a halt, the Cardinals could have called up top prospect J.J. Weatherholt to boost the offense. Now, just a brief aside, the whole Weatherholt thing is taking a strange turn. He's been in and out of the lineup now, hasn't played for the last 4 or 5 games. And the Cardinals, as usual, right till the end under John Mozeliak, a total lack of transparency. Like when Tekoa Roby, one of their top pitching prospects, had elbow surgery, the Cardinals never told anyone about that. And they never told anyone about that, even though there were some inquiries made, because the word was coming out of Memphis that he was injured. Why are they keeping it a secret? He can't pitch. Why are they keeping it a secret? What the hell is wrong with these people? And then you have Weatherholt, who's stirring up all kinds of excitement and anticipation of what he can do for the Cardinals. And all of a sudden, he disappears from the lineup. And I asked Ollie Marmol on the Gas House game yesterday. I said, "Can you tell us what's going on with that?" And he couldn't. And by the way, that's not Marmol's job to tell us what's going on, because Weatherholt's in the minor leagues, and anything that happens to, has to do with the minor leagues or anything like the major league roster in terms of setting the roster or moving prospects up or down, that comes from the front office, not the manager. But Jeff Jones of the Belleville News-Democrat did some digging into this. And what Jeff reported was basically, if I can just paraphrase it, the Cardinals said, first of all, they told him, we have nothing to share right now. That only led to more questions, right? What's really going on there? Well, as it turns out, based on what Jeff Jones said he found out, it sounds like Weatherholt's really banged up and kind of tired, and he's got some minor injuries going on. Maybe that's the way to put it. And they just said, you know what, let's give him a breather here. And why not? I mean, if that's true, I don't care. In fact, I wish they would do it to major league level, because I'm about to get into that. What's a point of running a guy into the ground when he's already playing with pain and discomfort, and he's got some injuries that, if not attended to in terms of shutting a guy down, they're only going to get worse, and they're only going to impact his performance negatively. And it could possibly lead to a more serious injury, because that's happened with some Cardinals this year. And I've discussed this before, but the one thing I do not like about Ollie Marmol's handling of the club, and I think he's done a good job this year. Yeah, he will be back next year. I've discussed this before, but here's the one thing I do not like, and he knows it because I've told him that. Not that he cares, but he doesn't mind me telling him that. 3 examples, the way they handle certain injuries that just always leaves me scratching my head. And by the way, this just didn't start with Ollie Marmol. Mike Matheny did it. Mike Schilt did it. Marmol does it too. 3 examples. But this is also relevant to what I'm talking about. There was a way for the Cardinals. Things would have had to have gone just right, but there was a way, because the Mets and the Reds and the Giants were just letting them hang in there. There was a way for the Cardinals maybe rise up and steal this thing. But the injuries to players, they were relatively minor injuries that became more damaging injuries because the way the decisions were made about what to do with them. Let me give you the 3 examples. Brendan Donovan had assorted injuries. Remember, it was, they said a toe. Then the toe became a foot. And then the toe and the foot injuries didn't get much better. They got better, but there was still discomfort there. And Donovan never really healed up, so he kept playing. And the more he played, the worse he got offensively. And by playing and playing and playing, even though he clearly was hurt, his performance clearly was suffering. And the best thing that they could have done early on was put him on the IL for 10 days to let things kind of heal up. But he continued to grind, even though his offensive performance really since the end of May has been awful. And because of the toe injury, the foot injury, Donovan said the groin injury that finally put him on the IL, even though he played with that for a while, he said that was caused by overcompensating for the toe and the foot injuries. And Donovan even alluded to the fact that if he had to do it all over again, he would have, gotten that part, the early part, the toe, the foot, whatever, would have got that put behind him instead of playing through it. And if Marmol had taken charge and shut Donovan down earlier with the short stay on the IL, Donovan would have been good to go as a healthier player instead of missing a lot more time later on. Same goes with Nolan Arenado. And again, I'm not delusional. I'm not saying he would have all of a sudden started hitting again like it was 2022. Not saying that at all. But he hurt a finger sliding in a base. He insisted on playing with the injuries. He went to Marmol and said, I'm good. I'm good. Let me keep playing, blah, blah, blah. But he got worse and worse and worse. And I really think it's the worst he's ever looked in a batter's box. Almost helpless. And that's because the shoulder started bothering him. And Arenado last week said that the shoulder strain was caused because he was overcompensating to protect the finger. He's holding his hands different and all this stuff. Body not used to an unusual movement with his hands. So instead of putting the finger issue behind him, it would have taken 10 days on the IL, maybe even less than that without putting him on the IL. Marmol and the Cardinals made it worse by playing him because he wanted to play. Donovan wanted to play. Third example, I have total respect for these players for wanting to play, but that's not the point. And I respect shortstop Mason Wynn from wanting to play every day, But he has been bothered off and on by knee pain and knee discomfort for a long time. And he indicated that there was, something was going to be done after the season. I'm assuming he's going to have, I hope it's minor surgery, and I'm pretty sure it is. But at no point did the Cardinals put him on the IL just to give him a breather, to give him a break. Again, I was never endorsing we'll sit him down for a month. I'm not saying that. But if a guy's hurting and that knee's really barking, give him off 3 out of give him off 3 days in a row or something like that, or put him on the IL for 10 days. And I know he's important to your defense, but since the start of June, and I think that's right around the time the knee started barking, Mason Wynn's hitting 240 and he's got a terrible 611 OPS. And he's not covering as much ground defensively because of his knee discomfort. If you look at defensive runs saved, his number of defensive runs saved has been going down. Although he's still in good shape in terms of outs above average, but even then, he has lost a little ground on that because he's not moving as much. He's not covering as much ground defensively. I'm sorry, but players have to be protected from themselves because most of them will always say, no, I want to play. I'm good. I feel great. They're not going to be totally forthcoming. And it's up to the manager to be the adult and to say no when it's necessary. And had Donovan, Arenado, and Mason Wynn remained fresher, in theory, I can't prove this. We'll never know for sure. But if they had been fresher, the Cardinals, I believe, would have gotten more offense from them, especially Donovan and Wynn. But the Cardinals have had a problem for quite a long time. I call it the hero ball syndrome, and the hero ball syndrome leads to hero ball managing. There were times when Adam Wainwright should have never been on the mound, and years past, like Mike Matheny was managing. And, Waino had a bad elbow, and I felt bad for him taking the mound. This was in 2014 or whatever. and we've seen other hitters, other pitchers, it's like, I'm good, coach. I'm good. And they manage to stay on the lineup or stay in the rotation when they should be shut down because they want to be the hero, right? But the manager gets caught up in the hero ball complex, so he won't shut them down. I don't get it. If you're investing so much money in your talent, the Cardinals' way is to we're paying them all that much. You're damn right they're going to play. That's stupid. That's incredibly stupid and short-sighted for an obvious reason. You're paying a lot of money. Some of them, Mason wins still, whatever. You get my point. You're paying them a lot of money because of their performance and their value, and you're signing up for them to be valuable and productive and really good at what they do. But if you're playing them while they're hurt, and you see day by day their statistical performance going down, 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 you're not getting the value for the money anyway. So why are you playing hero ball here? The best thing to do is give them some rest, let them shut it down for 10 days, and they'll return stronger, healthier, and more energized. But no. Part of the Cardinal way for a long time. Got to play hero ball. Everybody wants to be the hero. Oh, I can play. I know I just had my right arm amputated, but I want to be in that lineup. Okay, you're my guy. Get in there. Stuff drives me nuts, man. Anyway, if they had taken better care of their players, I believe they would have won more games. How many? I don't know. But they would have won more games. Because Brendan Donovan alone, the way he was hitting early in the season, before he got banged up, he certainly would have helped them win 2 or 3 more games. That's just an estimate. Well, here's what I don't know. Had the Cardinals stayed closer in the chase for the wild card spot with a couple of additions and smarter handling of their personnel, would it really matter to their fan base? And I'll give you the context on that. I'm not sure, but that's why I'm going to talk about it for a few minutes in my third and final segment, which is coming up. But first, I got to talk to you gents out there about Blue Chew. Pep talk time. Blue Chew can help you raise your game in those intimate and pleasurable moments, those special times with your partner. Big Blue can power you up, and you don't have to hesitate. You shouldn't be bashful or shy or awkward. Just chew it and do it, guys. I know what Blue Chew has done for me, so I'm proud to recommend it to you. I'm of Social Security age, and I know what it can do for me because it has done for me, and I want you to discover Blue Chew for yourselves. If you need a stronger bat, Blue Chew is in the equipment room, so go get it. And then you can get out of your slump. Let's put it that way. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for enhanced performance. You're going to get your first month of Blue Chew free. You're just a few clicks away. Sign up at bluechew.com. Consult one of their licensed medical providers. Consult with one of them. And once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription at your doorstep in a matter of days. It's all done online, simple, and private. Try your first month of Blue Chew free when you just use the promo code Bernie. And all you got to do is pay $5 shipping. That's promo code Bernie to get your first month free. And the only cost to you is the $5 shipping fee. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the Bernie Show here on STL Sports Central. All right, let's get into the quick third segment here on today's Bernie Show. I wonder how fans would have reacted to the Cardinals making some low-cost signings, good signings, but not splashy signings, but effective signings. Had they done that last winter to reinforce their depth and their value and just give them a little extra edge here and there. I wonder if fans would have been the ones that have said, I'm not going to any games this year. I wonder if they would have been more agreeable about at least buying some tickets instead of conducting what's basically an unofficial boycott that has dropped the team's average home attendance to 19th among the 30 franchises. I wonder if the Cardinals fans would have gone to more home games, let's say after the All-Star break, if the team on the field had been doing better because of the off-season move and also taking better care of their players. I wonder, if there was some momentum and we're after the All-Star break, would fans have responded in a way where at least they would have bought tickets to a few games where before they would have bought none? If they thought they're going to get to the wild card, would it have spurred some activity in ticket sales? I don't know. I doubt that it would have been much, though, because of the absolute disdain for ownership and president of baseball operations, John Mozeliak. Let's face it, those are the overwhelming reasons for the boycott and the attendance drop that resulted because of the boycott. That said, the repercussions wouldn't have been as severe had ownership management at least added some talent to the roster instead of setting an entire season aside for Project Runway. I mean, if you made such an effective low-cost signing as Phil Maton, you could have done that in a couple other spots. You know what I'm saying? Not that many people would have been convinced that ownership and management was really trying to win, but look, making minor upgrades, effective but minor upgrades, that's better than to just have 2025 serve as a tryout camp. I don't know that it would have really moved the needle on attendance, but I'm just saying. And even if, by the way, even if fan interest picked up in reaction to the Cardinals making a charge into the third wildcard spot, listen, got to remember in 2022, that Philly series, there were empty seats at Busch Stadium for that in the first round. And that was with a really exciting team. That was with Pujols and Molina and Goldie, the MVP, and Arenado finishing third in the MVP. And they had really good starting pitching after they got Jordan Montgomery and Jose Quintana. Adam Wainwright was still good. I think, I don't know. I think, man, Michaelis wasn't all that bad, right? They had some stuff going. But anyway, couldn't sell out the 2 playoff games against the Phillies before they got eliminated. And there was no rush of tickets in 2019, again, when the Cardinals still had all their stars. And you remember back in 2019, the Cardinals had a pretty exciting win over the Braves in the LDS because the Cardinals were down 2-1 and facing elimination. They won a dramatic Game 4 at Busch Stadium. It was great stuff. Really exciting game. And then they went to Atlanta in Game 5 and just ambushed and blew out the Braves. But then they come home, they start the NLCS against the Nationals, and there's empty seats everywhere for Games 1 and 2. So it's hard for me to say what the fans would have responded to. And by the way, that's up to the Cardinals to figure out. And the fans are the customers, and the customers, their money and their time. As I said, they should invest as they like. It's going to take a lot of work for the Cardinals to win back their audience. We've talked about that a lot. After all the damage that's been done, I don't think one wild card run would have fixed it. The problems are deep rooted, and the Cardinals will need time to turn it around. But that said, if they had gotten to the wild card, at least it would have maybe calmed people down a little bit because they're like, wait, I didn't expect them to do this. Wow, they exceeded expectations. So this was supposed to be kind of a little bit of a rebuilding year, and they made the playoffs. So I guess the rebuild won't be all that bad. Something along those lines. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying you have to agree with it. I'm just talking. But the Cardinals, they need time to turn it around. I can't give you a timetable. We also have a possible shutdown of the game coming in 2027 because the owners and players, mostly the owners, want to go to war. It's always best to compete, even if it means doing it in a way that's relatively modest and doesn't really undermine the plans you're making to retool this franchise for the future under Chaim Bloom. And as I made clear in the video, I never expected to see the Cardinals spend a ton of money on free agents. And that would have been the wrong thing to do, considering, A, they don't spend their money well under the current regime, which would have made it worse. And that would have been the wrong thing to do, considering the front office transition, because Chaim Bloom deserved a chance to start fresh beginning this offseason. But all I'm saying is this, and let's repeat it one more time. There was a path open to win that third wild card. We know that now. It was open. And even just with some low-key upgrades and more common sense, and none of that would have affected the financial bottom line, it was there, and the Cardinals decided to take a pass. Maybe they never would have gotten there. As I said, I'm not saying they would have gotten there. I'm just saying an opportunity was there to get there. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you all very much. Please subscribe, hit the like button, leave your comments, support our sponsors, and a special thanks to DraftKings for presenting The Bernie Show on STL Sports Central. Thank you as always.